Hey everyone, we're going to do a quick example of how to do an async finish pair for asynchronous operations in C and when using GObject. And the special thing that makes this one interesting over just a simple example is that we're going to do it with object inheritance. So we have a base object, and in this case it's the IDE debugger base object because I'm working on a debugger, and then we have an implementation of it for GDB, which needs to implement the virtual function pair. So what we're going to implement quick is a way to get the list of stack frames for a current thread as an asynchronous operation. And what I want for this is just to return I basically want an array of stack frames. So we're going to start by adding, I'll show you here the top of the object. In the virtual table for our debugger class, we're going to have a way to list frames async. And of course the first parameter is self, and then I'm going to have a thread for which I want to get the stack frames for, and then we have this same thing everywhere. It's, you know, this 3 parameter, the cancelable, the callback, and the user data for the callback. Always do that when we have a asynchronous operation. And then we have our finish function, which almost always takes these 3 parameters: the instance, the callback, and then a location for an error. And in our case, we want to return a pointer array, which will contain our stack frames. If for some reason you need an additional out parameter, we put that after the async result. So let's say we had an integer we needed to return as well, that would be an out parameter, and it would go here. But we don't. So let's go and implement our functions for this. There's one we can copy, list breakpoints. We'll just make this list frames async. We'll add a thread and list frames finish. Let's go implement this in C. This looks like a good spot. You'll notice in all of my functions I use lots of precondition checks to make sure that we are with what we think we are. That is a good habit to be in. It helps you catch errors early. I'll hold off a minute on finishing this until we can describe what it's doing. Okay, so what we have here is that we are working with what we think we are. Cancellables are allowed to be null. Okay, and this is our normal chain up procedure. So we get the class vtable and list frames. So this is calling that function we put into our vtable. Let's do the same for our return. Now, imagine if someone called this API right now, what's going to happen? As soon as we get to this point right here, we're going to segfault because there's no function in that location yet. It's just null. If you try to dereference null, you get a segfault. So we need to implement a default implementation that just gives us an error. So in our class init, where we set up all our default vtable, we can say list frames async. And you'll notice I used real in the name here. That's because if I just used this, that'd be calling the function we just tried to dereference it from, and we'd have an infinite loop, right, until the stack overflowed. So we use real as a convention there, nothing special. So let's implement that. Real list frames async. And we just want to report an error here, so let's look it up quick. There's a GTask report error. This is a little handy thing to remember there. GIO error not supported. Okay. So what's going on here? We'll get to know this a little bit better and then when we go implement it in the GDB side, but we're basically creating a new asynchronous callback here. This is equivalent to doing something like creating a new task. And then doing GTask return new error. Right, like these are functionally equivalent. And what's going on here is we're creating a GTask, which is a GTask is an async result. So that's the one that it's getting back here in this parameter. And then we're saying that the task was an error. So when it goes to try to propagate the result pointer, which needs to be a pointer because that's what we're returning, instead it's going to just return null and then set error because that's what we reported up here. Okay, so now that we have that there, let's go implement it on the GDB side. Let's look for class init. There's two of them there because there's a static inline that gets, or a static definition that gets created in a macro at the top, and I haven't come up with a good way to remove them. Alright, so let's go implement the GDB side here. This looks like a good place. List frames async. And so just like in the base class, let's just set that up.
Strange organic object in my hand.
Propagate that pointer back. And actually implement it up here.
Never seen anything quite like this before. It opened its eye.
Some people like to do casts like this at the top of their function. And this will make a warning and but continue on. I like to just do only nothing that can crash in my or spit out warnings up here, and then do all of my assertion checks in one place. I mean, it's totally just a style thing, and you know, just do what is comfortable for you, but be consistent. Okay. So let's create a new task. You'll get used to doing this a lot the more you use async stuff. I set priority on my tasks because I want them to be lower priority than the UI priority, and low, G priority low is lower than the GTK main loop hooks. So you see that I do that. I'm just trying to make sure that my callback doesn't take priority over the main loop. Okay, so to list the stack frames in GDB is the stack list frames command, which I looked up earlier. So we need to execute that, and I have a helper here, exec async, to execute commands. So I can say stack list frames. And it is an async function. So you'll notice here I do gsteal pointer. That's because I'm using auto pointer to own and automatically unref the task. So I like to be very explicit about passing ownership. So when I go and audit the code, I can very clearly see, okay, I did this, I moved the ownership here. So I'm passing the ownership of task to my callback function. So let's define that quick. Object is myself. Here is the special part. I'm assigning the user data, which I passed by using the gsteal pointer, the ownership to the side, and then here in my callback, I am taking ownership of that user data and assigning it to an auto pointer, which will release the task when the function returns. So we do more condition checks. And our exec function returns us the structure from GDB. Let's see if I get this going again. Make sure we clean up our stuff here. Okay, so we need to propagate an error if there was a failure to execute the command via GDB. So if output's equal to null, or we unwrap an error. Okay, so what's going on here is we could get a successful result back from GDB, but the GDB result could just be an encapsulated error. So we need to extract that. And if that happens, we get a failure. Make sure we clean up things. Otherwise, here we need to actually parse this result. Now, I don't have code to do that yet. I need to go look at the proper way to parse that. So I'm not going to do that at the moment, but we'll just fake it. And there we go. Now, when this task completes, it will pass this pointer array back, which is what we had and we're expecting here. Which we should also say list frames finish, transfer container, element type is an id.debugger frame, and it's nullable. Anyway, I think that's pretty much it. You can get the idea of how we go about doing this and try exploring it for yourself. Anyway, thanks for watching.